it's a fun time of year where you're like, who won free agency? Who won free agency? And I've heard a lot of people saying, well, the Lakers, they won free agency, right? Now, there's a couple parts to it. One, nothing is finished. Between the Lillard trade and potential other trades and other movement, it's not finished. But, retaining Austin Reeves at $100 million, I guess technically his free agency is restricted free agent. Retaining D'Angelo Russell, who they couldn't play in the NBA playoffs. He was so bad against Denver, they couldn't play him. The most shots he made were after all the playoff games where he'd stand around on the court at Staples and get shots. And I like you go out and you get another point guard. Remember, previously they had Dennis Schroeder, right? And what'd they do? Well, they went out and got Gabe Vincent, who, of course, started for the Miami Heat. So now you have, again, a two-headed monster. But Byer, this was, I guess, look, first, I think Pelinka did a good job.
Yes, agreed.
I actually think he did a good job. But you can do a good job and not build that's not a championship roster.
I was going to say, rarely is it like, all right, we got swept in the conference finals, let's run it back. Like, you don't hear that sort of thing, but that is the reality of it. I think we're so accustomed to LeBron having such control over the decisions and the Lakers just doing whatever LeBron wants that we feel it is a massive win when they follow a script that doesn't seem to be LeBron directed.
Agreed. But the other part to it is we can't seem to admit, okay, when people do, like, you can do a good job, you're just not going to win a championship. You're like, wait. They got to the conference finals last year. Like, okay, let's be honest, right? First thing is, last year, the Grizzlies didn't have their starting center or their small ball five. It's a completely different series if the Grizzlies are healthy. Doesn't mean the Grizzlies win, okay? And the Grizzlies hadn't really played in that level of playoff game, and Ja had missed a bunch of time. But if the Grizzlies are healthy, different playoffs.
Agreed.
Okay? Now, they beat the Warriors 4-1. And the Warriors, by the way, are kind of running it back. They're kind of doing the addition by subtraction. Like, hey, what would it look like if we were the same team, only we got rid of Jordan Poole? That's basically what they've done. Hold on, we got a whole new look roster. What'd you do? Well, we added Chris Paul, but really we just want to get rid of Jordan Poole. That's what they've done. But we also have to factor in, like, the Clippers were arguably the best team, and we still don't know if their roster is going to step. They were in any conversation, and they weren't healthy. And while you can sit here and go like, well, if you're depending on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to be healthy in the playoffs, good luck. You're right. But if you want to make that argument, what if I made the same argument about the Lakers? Remember, Anthony Davis and LeBron James fully healthy throughout the playoffs. What's the likelihood that a 39-year-old LeBron James is better next year than this year? Not likely. What's the likelihood that Anthony Davis and LeBron James are both healthy in the playoffs next year like this year? Not likely. So, yeah, I thought they did a good job. I think they have a good, solid roster. I think they have a really good base. But if we paid attention, LeBron's not the guy he used to be. They needed somebody else to make plays, create shots, and they aren't really able to get it. So they just built a really good team that'll be really competitive, and if those two guys are healthy, they'll probably win a playoff series, and then they'll get beaten by somebody who's better, right? I mean, like, I don't know what Phoenix ends up looking like, but how can you not say that Phoenix won free agency going out and getting, like, they added an all-NBA caliber player. No one knows how good Brad Beal is here in his 30s because he's played completely meaningless games basically his entire career. But I don't know if he's their third option. That's a pretty good option in Phoenix. And, like, they'll either keep DeAndre Ayton, who can really score, and just try and outscore you. Like, that's an impressive roster. Again, I don't know if they'll be healthy. I don't know what that looks like, but compare it to the Lakers, you're like, one added Gabe Vincent, one added Brad Beal. Who got better?
I'd even say Memphis.
Yeah.
With the investment that they made to make sure that Ja Morant is on the right track.
Yeah.
Not only with the addition of Marcus Smart, but just saying like Derrick Rose, come on in. Yeah, this is the guy that for 25 games they can maybe manage whatever, and maybe in the long run it's going to be better for Memphis anyway, where Ja Morant starts mid-season practically. But even just those additions, and then they signed Desmond Bane to a long-term deal, I think you could make the argument that Memphis is better as well, even with Ja's suspension.
New Orleans, if Zion plays, New Orleans has elite talent, right? So, obviously Zion been in the Twitter news for all kinds of other stuff, craziness, but like, let's not get it twisted. That guy is a superstar when he's healthy, when he's right, and we just don't know if that will be next year. Yes, John Ramos.
So who are the Lakers? Who was somebody the Lakers should have got if you just had to look? We know that the players they got make them equal to what they had, but was there somebody out there that they missed?
No,
so
you're screwed.
They can only do what they have with what they got.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Like a lot of the teams in the NBA, by the way.
Yeah. No, I mean that's why, and I'm not taking shots at any one in particular radio host. But the classic radio, thing to be like, man, why can't the Lakers just go add Damian Lillard? Like, because Portland's like, no, we don't want to do that.
Those are dumb questions.
Well, I mean, when there's nothing to talk about, they're highly speculative, and they're not. You had the Damian Lillard he's from Oakland, so why doesn't he go play for the Warriors? Like, no, not working. So. Yeah, I mean, it's like we can talk about, this guy's, will never play for this team again, or why don't you make this trade? It works in the trade machine. I went on ESPN.com and did the trade machine. It works. Who says no to that? Yeah, everybody. Last year, remember, we wanted to trade Anthony Davis. You remember that? I said, you got to trade Anthony Davis. Got to trade him. You trade Anthony Davis. And then you're like, okay, so the Lakers move heaven and earth to get a guy who, when healthy, is one of the 5-7 best players in the NBA, and they're going to trade him because he's injured to get somebody else they don't know, who LeBron isn't friends with, his agency doesn't represent. Yeah, that's not happening.
The West is very intriguing, and I know you're going to talk about Chet Holmgren, but you've got this group, and I know Minnesota and New Orleans did make offers to Portland for Damian Lillard, but you do have like these different groups in the West. Golden State and the Lakers can be put in the same group of, all right, we're going to try to run it back with our core and see what we've got. Phoenix, you mentioned Bradley Beal, but their depth is whatever. But you do have the Denver, the defending champs. Sacramento continues to seem to rise. And you've got this Timberwolves, Pelicans, Thunder sort of group that seem to be on the verge as well, where now all of a sudden I'm starting to scratch my head saying maybe the Lakers and Warriors shouldn't have just been, hey, we're going to run it back, especially with those teams coming up the way that they are.
Right, but what are your options?
Yeah. What
are your options? And I do think there's a certain, like, look, what the Lakers are trying to do is the league has, I mean, there's kind of two ways to do it, right? You either try and do what Phoenix is doing, which the Lakers have tried to do, which is, hey, let's get a couple of stars and then just get minimum contract guys who want to try and win around them. Or you do kind of an ensemble cast. And that's really what worked for Miami, was an ensemble cast. And I think that's the Lakers are trying to build an ensemble cast around their two guys, and that gives them the best opportunity because you can't trade LeBron and you can't trade Anthony Davis. Those are not movable guys.
You know what's funny though is, as a Bucks fan, you look at what Milwaukee had this offseason, and there comes a point where you do have to make a difficult decision somewhere. But you say to yourself, okay, well, obviously Giannis is there. Well, you got to have Middleton back. I mean, you can't lose Middleton. You can't lose Middleton. So then you sign Middleton to a deal, and then you're like, well, gosh, if they lost Brook Lopez, they would be.
They got both Lopez's.
Yeah, and if you lost Brook Lopez, that would be awful for Milwaukee.
Yes.
Okay, so now you've signed them. You've got Drew Holiday under contract. Now you're 4 players deep.
Yeah, and then you have no more money.
Yeah, and you're saying, okay, well, how do we change from what they did? They just signed Malik Beasley yesterday, but you're trying to figure out where do you change? And, Milwaukee didn't look like a team against the Miami Heat that was, this close to a championship, but you believe that core is there. But at some point when and I think it's the Lakers situation as well. You're like, okay, we've got LeBron and we've got Anthony Davis. Well, you can't lose Austin Reeves. There's no way that you can do that. And then you do add a Gabe Vincent. And then at what point are you saying, okay, we kind of are on the same team that maybe didn't go as far? Like I think certain teams fall victim to that and are afraid to make the big changes, or maybe just the status of the NBA doesn't allow them to. But at some point, all of a sudden you're like, okay, yeah, I guess we are just what we were previously.
What do you think of the tweets with Woj and Shams where they credit the agents?
Oh.
But can you read? Do you have the Beasley? Can somebody find the Beasley tweet for me? That because Shams, I think the Beasley tweet was either like last night, and it talked about man, they got Malik Beasley. What an impactful shooter, right? Can I? What did the Lakers lack against the Denver Nuggets? They shoot the ball well against Denver Nuggets? They did not, right? They needed more shooting. Didn't they?
Got the tweet. Sorry.
Yeah, can you read the tweet for me?
Free agent Malik Beasley has reached a 1-year agreement on a deal with the Bucks. Sources tell Athletic and Stadium. Agent Brian Youngreese, I'm not sure, of Parlay Sports and Entertainment negotiated the contract.
There's another one, though, from Shams where he's like, one of the most impactful shooters in the playoffs this year, whatever.
Oh, yeah, yes. A big pickup for the championship contending Bucks. Beasley led the NBA in three-pointers made off the bench last season, and he bolsters their two-guard position with a significant opportunity in the rotation.
Yeah, no, he won't. He can't play, right? Because if he could play, the Lakers would have used him in the Western Conference Finals, where he took off his sweats one game. The Lakers concluded Malik Beasley can't play. When I say can't play, it doesn't mean he can't physically play basketball, but at that level of the NBA playoffs, they couldn't find a place to put him on the floor when you badly needed shooting. Here's a guy with a reputation as a shooter, and you couldn't find any minutes for him. Right? And he went from playing 10 minutes to 6 to 3, barely played in the Warriors series. And then they got to the Nuggets yeah. So, again, this is – and I understand why Shams and why Woj, why they have to put the agent's name, why they have to put some nice, happy stamp on it, right? Because you're not going to get that information fed to you via text unless you do that. But, I mean, it's not that big a pickup. Let's just be honest. People weren't beating down the door for Malik Beasley when he took off his sweats exactly once – and the Lakers needed shooting, and he didn't play against the Nuggets.
I think the bigger deal is that Shams took 2 of my 600 tweets to tell me the Bucks signed Malik Beasley. Come on.